Everyone, my name's Manik. I am currently a PGY-1 resident here in the United States, and today we're going to talk about USMLE, the ultimate guide to creating a winning rank order list for you. What is a rank order list, Manik? I don't even know what that means. So in order to clarify that, let me just tell you what it is actually. So once you're done giving your USMLE exams, including step 1 and step 2, and you have your certification, ECFMG certification, you apply to the NRMP match. Once you apply to the NRMP match to different programs, they will send you interviews. So let's say you apply to about 150 programs. And out of 150 programs, out of this, that like on an average, people get somewhere from 5 to 15 interviews. After the interview process is over, you would have interviewed with these programs, and these programs would have interviewed with other applicants, and they will start forming what is called as a rank order list for them, and you will do the same for you. And this has to be submitted by the end of the February of the year that you're going to match in. You'll submit this applicant rank order list where you'll be ranking programs from A, B, C, D, in descending order of your priority of the program that you want to match into. And the program will do the same thing with applicants going from X to Z in a descending order. The algorithm, which is also called as the match algorithm, will run both the rank order lists in an algorithmic manner, and it will decide who will get into which program. And what you need to know about this is the algorithm favors the applicant and not the program. So if let's say there is this certain specialty where, let's say internal medicine, where there is this top applicant for this program who gets ranked like at the top by them, right? It's upon the applicant now, if he wants, it's the applicant's decision that's going to matter more than what the program's decision will ever be. So if the applicant doesn't rank them as number one and ranks some other program as number one, and that program likes that applicant, the applicant will match into that program easily, right? Let's say the applicant ranked programs A, B, right? And this program, A as number one, and B as number two, and this program is basically B. So, and B ranks applicant A as number one on their list. Now what's going to happen is, if program A, okay, program A is a different program, ranks this applicant as number one in their list, and so has the applicant will match with that program called program A. But if the program A does not rank the applicant A higher enough that the applicant isn't able to get past all the numbers into their program's positions, and all the program's positions get over, then the applicant will end up matching with program B, provided the program B has ranked the applicant at a spot where like their positions do not get over, and a spot high enough where the positions do not get over. And that's how kind of the match algorithm works. So it favors the applicant more than the program. That is where the power of the rank order list comes in for you, is that you are the deciding person mostly where you're going to end up with, like provided you are taking that program's ranking order criteria into account. Since we have such a big responsibility, there are a lot of factors we need to consider in, and when we consider factors, we tend to overvalue a few low priority like factors and undervalue a few high priority factors. And my job in this video is to break down the high priority from the low priority factors that you end up using to rank your perfect program in with which you want to match. All right, so here are the high priority factors that I looked at when I was ranking programs, and I will go into depth on all of these. These are just a few lower priority factors that you need to think about as well, but like again, high priority trumps low priority, and let's get into it. So what is high priority in all this game of ranking? So when we think about ranking, one of the number one factors that you should think about is university programs versus community programs. So when we think about programs, there are three things that come to my mind. There's university programs, there's university affiliated community programs, and then there are community programs. For the sake of the simplicity of this video, I'm going to break the programs into university based and community based programs. Simple as that. When you think about university affiliated community programs, they're actually community, but they are getting their affiliation from some other university, but it's not a big deal. So university versus community is what we're going to look into. So university programs, right? The reason university programs, number one, are really great for you is because they prioritize resident education as much as their clinical responsibilities and clinical work. What ends up happening a lot of the times when you think about community programs, these programs more often than not end up prioritizing clinical responsibilities over resident education, which can be like a problematic thing because you are here to learn and not just to practice medicine, because you need supervision, you need a bit of autonomy, and you need didactics to actually become a good attending, not just clinical work. So university programs also give you more access to resources such as up-to-date different learning tools like DynaMed and looking up different drugs. There's so many tools that a lot of the times university programs give you access to. There's also library. So for example, the program that I'm going into has a library where you can get almost any paper, almost any book online, and I don't have to pay for it. I can just look it up online and do it that way. University programs tend to have a better electronic medical record systems such as Epic and Cerner compared to some other EMRs which are not as so good. And Epic is touted the number one EMR, and I have it at my program. I have actually both of them at my program. I get to work with the best of EMRs, and this allows for easier learning, easier ordering, easier patient charting, easier looking up across the databases, which you might not find in community programs. There are some community programs that don't even give you access to EMRs, and it's paper-based records research. So university programs give you the opportunity to work in research opportunities because they actually have quite a lot of research going on. There's also PhD staff, PhD doctors, teachers, and they have a PhD program as well, because of which it's a good environment for conducting research and getting your hands dirty with it. Career opportunities. University programs give you better access to career opportunities. The reason is because once you've been through a good university program, now like your CV has that university programs affiliated with your CV, because of which now other employers will tend to prefer you over somebody who's from a community program, and that is something that does happen. Also, if you want to work in an academic setting, especially let's say you want to work in academic hospitals, big universities, getting your residency done from a university program helps tons with it. Fellowship opportunities. You will see that fellowships tend to be more often in university programs than community programs. So if you end up matching in a university program, it's easier to get into fellowships such as GI, cardiology, or pulm critical if you're considering internal medicine. When you think about accessible amenities, I'm talking about amenities that you need daily, and not something that you're going to go on a vacation once a month, twice a month, thrice a month. I'm talking about day-to-day amenities. So when we think about that, a good cafeteria is it makes or breaks your day, because if you are getting all junk food or fried food instead of getting healthy food, good healthy food options rather, that's like something that was very important for me when I was ranking programs. I know that might sound a bit silly. A university gym, because I like to be healthy. I like to keep my brain working. The gym was very important, and my university has that. Nearby shopping centers, malls, so that because residency, you are so short of time. Like literally, I just get like 6 or 7 hours of free time daily, and in that free time, there's cooking involved, there's rushing back and forth clinical sites, right? So there's actually a very little amount of time when you are done with the day at your program, and so you need like these shopping malls, shopping centers where you can buy groceries. That's something that I would buy and not sell upon. Weather is again everything, and this is why you will see that a lot of applicants rank Californian programs a lot higher, because the weather is all year around sunny and good, not wintry. Benefits. Does your institution provide free food? And this can be in the form of just giving you free meals or giving you money on a card. Proudly, I'm into such a program which gives me access to free food, free parking. So that's important. Some programs actually charge you at a 4-figure mark in your salary per year just for parking. And I would really not think about going to such a program provided that residency salary is itself not that much. So look for free parking, travel allowances. So does your program give you conference stipend if you're going to present a paper? Do they have enough resources? Does your program pay for your USMLE Step 3? There's so many programs that have this academic fund where they give you like a fixed amount of money every single year. My program gives me $600 a year to buy books, or if you want to pay for your USMLE Step 3, if you want to buy an iPad, so you can use the same allowance for that. Health insurance. So there are some programs which will give you free health insurance, while other programs where you have to actually pay for health insurance. This can range from something as low as $30 a month to as high as $100 per month. 401k matching. So what is 401k? 401k is an investment option where you can put your pre-tax money. So any pre-tax money you make, you can put a percentage of that into a 401k, which will invest it into very safe mutual funds. What is matching is, let's say if I put $100 per month into my 401k, and if I do that, my employer will also match it with $100. So in total, I will invest $200, $100 from my side, and my employer will also invest with me. So combining it to a total of $200. That's called matching. Some programs do this, some programs don't. J1 versus H1B visa. So when we think about J1, it's about a 1-year visa, and it's an exchange visa. H1B visa is more of an employment visa where the hospital basically sponsor you for a 3-year period. Now, what are the pros and cons for a J1 versus H1B? Okay, so the con, I'm going to discuss the con first. Con for J1 is once you're done with the residency, you either need to return to your country for about 2 years, then you can come back. This is why it's called the J1 exchange visa, because basically your country is sending you to America for learning, and then after your learning is over, you go back and give back to your own country, and the minimum period that you have to do that, like work in your country, is 2 years. Now there's a way to bypass this. It's called a 3-year rural exemption, where if you like stay in the US, you need to work in rural or suburban areas for about 3 years, and then you can get converted to an H1B category, or if you have like a spouse, you can go to a green card. And what you need to know about J1 is, during the whole period of your residency, so let's say internal medicine, 3 years, and after that, let's say you go back and work in your country for 2 years, so that's 5 years. If you stay in America, that's 6 years, 3 plus 3. So these, at least for 6 years, 5 or 6 years, you cannot apply for green card at all, even if you get married. And that's just basically how the J1 works. It's only gonna happen after you're done with either your exemption period, or you've worked in your country for the provided number of years, like I've stated, 2 years, right? H1B visa, this is basically an employment visa sponsored by your hospital, and once you get the H1B visa, you can get green card even while you're on the H1B visa. If you are, let's say, publishing papers, you can convert to what is called as an O1 visa. And there's other EB1 and EB2 category. If you get into EB1, you can get green card within 6 months. So H1B basically allows you to get to green card way faster than J1. The only caveat of H1B is that if you're applying to fellowships, it is very hard to do that on H1B, because most fellowships do not sponsor H1B. And the reason for that is basically H1B is much more costlier to sponsor, because the hospital needs lawyers who need to pay for you, like you to get your visa. So a lot of fellowships that are renowned would not sponsor you on an H1B. And if you're on residency, you're doing H1, like you're on H1B, it's hard to get into fellowship programs on that H1B. While you're on J1, most of the fellowship programs do sponsor J1. So if you did residency on J1 and you apply to fellowships, it's easier to get into certain fellowships easily on J1. So that's the only caveat of H1B. Another thing to remember is most programs do not sponsor H1B. There's only a few programs that do, basically in internal medicine and psychiatry. The next thing I would think about is the program director. One of the books that I read called Happiness Advantage covered this concept called the vertical couple. So basically, what is the vertical couple? It is the boss and the employee couple. And he said that one of the main factors to be really happy in life is to have a nice vertical couple where you have an understanding boss who cares about you and who actually is personally invested in your growth. So ask yourself whenever you're interviewing with programs, with whom do I resonate the most? With which program director do my values intersect the most? Honestly, life gets in the way when in residency. It can be personally, professionally, or family problems can come in, and you need a program director who actually cares and who is accommodating of these requests. And you also need to think about a program director when you're interviewing, is this program director who will take feedback from the residents and actually implement that feedback. And you can even ask this question when you are interviewing. Board prep resources. There are a handful of programs which will give you free access to a question bank, books. They will pay for books or give you like a stipend to buy books to read for your certain specialty. They will also give you time to use these question banks and books in the form of like a day in a period of week where you are free to actually use for self-education. And I think this is another factor that gets overlooked. Good attitude co-workers. Residency is extremely hectic, and you are going to be working a lot. And what makes work really tolerable is people who actually align with your values and people who are actually fun to be around with. The camaraderie between the residents and the staff and the program director and the residents is the most important factor, if there has to be, because a program which itself is not happy and is very incohesive within its structure, where there are hierarchical positions where people are dominating, bossing over each other and not even listening to each other, is not a and like there are programs like that. I would not rank such programs. Understand that like that's what makes the difference between a program that's malignant and non-malignant. A malignant program is where you won't find this camaraderie between the residents, and there are other programs where there's nothing such as you won't, even if you're a senior, even if you have a senior resident and you're the junior resident, you wouldn't even feel it, because they would make you feel like a brother or a sister. And I'm proud to be in such a program where I can say the same. And you will see this basically when you're interviewing with the program. You will see this happen in the way the senior residents treat the junior residents, and how the program director addresses everyone else. And you will kind of get a gut feeling, which I think is something that you should strongly consider. And I actually considered where I used this gut feeling basically to rank a program which was not ranked as high as a few programs on Doximity, but I ranked it just because my gut feelings said so, just based on this feeling that I got, that these people felt like family, they were so cohesive. And I would implore you to do the same. Autonomy balance. So what is autonomy? Autonomy is how much responsibility and independence does the staff and the senior residents give to you when you're starting. And I say it as a balance, because if you're given too much autonomy at a period when you have not matured enough, you can make a lot of mistakes which cannot be reversed. And then there are periods when you know a lot and you can handle it, and some the program is just structured in a way that it wouldn't allow you to function at that level, and just it would just let you function at a medical student's level. So you want to be in the middle of these two, where the program gives you progressive autonomy, that as you progress through PGY-1, 2, 3 and 4 years, the level of autonomy that's provided to you increases. And not just between different years, but also during these years, as you start your first, second, third or fourth month of residency, the program gives you progressive autonomy. In my case, this happened when I started. I had no knowledge of how Epic or Cerner worked, and I remember my first day, I was just like, how do I order medications for my patients? How do I write notes? I did not know anything. And I remember the residents just literally holding my hands and teaching me from A to Z during my first month on how Cerner worked. And then I learned Epic as well from my residents in my residency, as well as from internal medicine, and also a rotation which I did. Ask the residency when you're interviewing with them is, how do they manage the transition from when you're a medical student to resident, how do they handle it? And do they give you buddy calls? So buddy calls is a system where when we do calls, we have a senior resident overseeing our work, so that in the first 4 months that we are there doing calls, we get help from them, guided supervision, and if there's some confusion, they clear it out for us. So, and after that, we are given independent calls. So this is kind of an example of progressive autonomy, and I think is very important in a residency system. When I talk about proximity to the hospital, I'm talking basically about in-campus housing and off-campus housing. University hospitals in general will provide you in campus housing, where they house medical students, residents, graduates, and as well as postdocs. And this housing is very subsidized. Rent here is very subsidized, as well as the bills that you get. Sometimes you don't have to pay for the electricity bill or the Wi-Fi bill. The university basically takes care of it for you. And in off-campus housing, basically, are there places, good places to live nearby to the hospital? And if there are these safe places where you can, like, if you have a call, you can go at night. Is it a safe place? Because in some areas in America, that's not, like, there are places which are not very safe. If you think about, let's say, Manhattan is a great place to live in. But again, the housing near the hospitals in Manhattan is extremely costly, going from like $3,000 to $4,000 for like a 1 or 2 bedroom apartment. You should think about it as well. Your partner's needs. So I was not married, so this isn't that pertinent for me. However, a lot of my co-residents are. I see them, walking this residency path with their partner, and how they need to prioritize their partner's needs along with their needs as well. If you have a partner, you need to think about their needs. Do you think they'll be safe in that area? Do you think they'll be okay just walking alone at about 5 p.m., 6 p.m. In the streets? Or do you think that that's fine? If you're going to have children, do you think your children are going to be safe in that area? Is it a good area for children? Are the public schools good in that area as well? Because the level of education also varies between different counties to states. Finally, the most important factor when you think about ranking programs is your gut instinct. Your gut actually has more neurons than your entire peripheral nervous systems. The gut has also been called the second brain. And whenever I've gone with my gut, I've never been wrong. I have never looked backward, thinking, oh my God, what if I took the other way? Because I know that was the right option. So all in all, when you're thinking about these factors, ask what your gut wants, because your gut is always right. Now, what factors should be considered low priority? The first factor that I don't think you should overvalue a lot are the doximity ratings. So when you go to doximity and you basically sort programs, you will get like a big list. And do not take this big list seriously, or even like those numbers very precisely. The reason I'm saying that is because a lot of this data sometimes is very old. Secondly, a lot of this data is based on surveys that cannot be trusted. And thirdly, that data does not necessarily represent what you want at the end of the day. The only time I would look at doximity is if the program that I'm ranking comes in the top 20 to 30 ratings for the certain specialty, because the difference between the programs that are the top 1 and the top 3rd position is often far more than the programs that are at ranking 50th and 200. So as you approach, as you go down the list, the more the law of diminishing returns basically applies to the ratings. Not much difference between a program that's 50th to a program that's, let's say, 100th on the list. So just when I'm thinking about like doximity, I'm thinking about top 20 to 30 programs, that just to get to know the prestigious programs, and the rest, actually there's not much difference when you think about doximity. Second factor that people often overvalue is the salary. A lot of programs, let's say if you look at New York City area, they offer in PGY-1 $74,000 per year in salary, which is a lot. My program, on the other hand, offers $64,000 per year in salary. That's my salary. But I'm going to show you one thing. Understand, this is New York, and let's say I'm going to move to the city that I'm living close to. Basically, my program basically pays me $64,000. In New York, they pay you $74,000. But look here, when I use a cost of living calculator and I say I'm going to move from New York to Harrisburg, and I take my pre-tax household income, that is 74,000, from New York to Harrisburg, how much will I need to live at the same standard of living while I was in New York at $74,000? That would be $31,000 when I compare it to that. And my salary currently is $64,000. So that there is a huge difference. So even though it looks like I am getting lesser of a pay in this area that I'm living in, actually, if you run the numbers and think about it in the context of cost of living, I'm actually getting paid way more than I'm getting paid in New York. Hours supposedly work per week. When you look at Frida, they will give you hours worked per week in a certain program. Many people take this seriously. I wouldn't take this seriously because of one thing. Residency is a time for learning. And even if you're contributing more hours, is often for your good, right? And second thing to also consider is this representation of the data can be very skewed, and you might end up finding something that's very different at the program than what was represented at that Frida website, right? So, but what you should know is that ACGME, which is Accreditation Council of Graduate Medical Education, has a work limit of 80 hours per week in residency. So that is not a lot. Basically, when you're learning, I would not consider it as my top factor when I'm thinking about ranking programs, just because of the fact is the more I work, the better it is for me for clinical learning. Because when else am I gonna learn? When I become an attending, if you think about it. Board pass rate. During the interview process, many programs are going to show you this board pass rate of being 100%. Now, this is important, but not as important as you think it could be. The reason it's not that important is because a lot of the times when you're interviewing at programs which have high USMLE scores, these programs which require high USMLE scores to get even an interview, these programs are filled with applicants who already have good test taking abilities, which is why their board pass rate is very high, like 100%, right? Because high USMLE scores predict good test taking ability, which predicts a good board pass rate as well. So some PDs just get applicants with high scores, which is why they have 100% board pass rate. However, in other institutions where this is not the case and you see a board pass rate of 100%, it could have the meaning that when especially the applicants are not the high scorers as well, is the resources provided by the institutions, like the question banks, the books, the didactics, the lectures, as well as dedicated time provided by the institution is bearing some fruit for them. And I think that's when it becomes important. It's not that important when you think about programs that already have high scoring test takers. So far-flung amenities. During my interview process, all the interviewers were like, we are just 3 hours away from New York City, 2 hours away from the beach, 4 hours away from Atlantic City or something like that. Understand that in residency, you don't have much time. You're already, you just have a pinch of a time. You're working the whole day, and then you come back home, you cook food, and then you sleep. And that's most of your life as a resident. And honestly, this doesn't matter as much as the other factors that I told you before. And I wouldn't even think about this when I'm ranking programs, unless if it's like some relatives that live close by. Let's say I live in Pennsylvania and my relatives live in New Jersey. So that's something that I can see that I'm 1.5 hours away from them. I get that. But otherwise, I wouldn't even think about it. Post-interview communication. And so after the interview, programs might or might not participate in post-interview communication where they reach out to you during the ranking process. Do not take anything seriously. I've seen so many other applicants get positive post-interview communication and then they don't end up matching there. I've seen applicants getting no post-interview communication from the programs that they liked and then matching there. Understand? This is basically varies from program to program. Some programs have a policy of not reaching out to the applicants because they just don't wanna deal it with that way. Even if you send them post-interview communication from yourself, which is called as letter of intent that you want to match there, these programs again have policies to reply to that letter and don't take it to your heart. this is just very program specific. Some programs will reach out and they could be genuine and it could have meaning, but at the other hand it could not have meaning. So I would not think of this factor when I'm ranking programs is, oh, look at this program, they reached out to me in a good way after the interview was over, so this is why I should rank them high. I would not go along with that thought process. So guys, if you like this video, do give me thumbs up, and thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next one.